What's up, guys? Welcome back to Unqualified Critics. We've got 3 bits of news for you today. Arcade1up hitting the record books and House of the Dead news. But first, let's look at the most exciting news I've seen in a long time. The Attack from Mars firmware update or patch is on its way for the Arcade1up Pinball. So shout out to user Thrivid on Reddit for asking this question to begin with, but he contacted Mel Kirk from Zen Studios and asked a question. I can't read the full question. I tried to find this original post on Reddit. I could not. I'm really bad at searching for stuff on Reddit, or Reddit's internal search engine is trash. Maybe it's both. But anyway, asked a question presumably about Attack from Mars, and the response was, we've created a patch that addresses a number of issues. Arcade1up will distribute this. When and how is up to them. So there's our answer. We know the patch is coming from Arcade1up, probably to be expected since that's been true for all other Arcade1up products. We know that Zen Studios has done their job and they've dropped off the completed patch. We know that Zen Studios wanted to do one patch and only one patch and have this include all of the issues. Will it include my issue, which I haven't talked a ton about, but I've talked a little bit about, and I did make sure Arcade1up was aware of this, I believe, at least. Maybe I'm misremembering that. I'm pretty sure I sent them an email with this info, but whatever, I definitely talked about it in my review. When you are done with a pinball table on, say, Attack from Mars, let's say you're playing the Attack from Mars table on Attack from Mars. When you're done with the table, you've gone through all your balls, it kicks you back to a menu, and you have to either select to play the title again or go back to the main menu, and it takes you out of the arcade table's music and it gets you into the Zen Studios music. I would really like to see you stay in the title until you go out of your way to get out of it. There are plenty of buttons on this cabinet. It would be very easy to have a command where you hold a certain button or combination of buttons down for a couple seconds and it takes you back to the main menu. That'd be no problem. That's what we really need. What we don't need is to take us out of that experience, because that's what I think one of the most exciting things about Arcade1up is it presents like it's a real pinball table. We all know it's not, but it looks pretty close to a real pinball table. It sounds great. It's got real licensed tables. And then when it kicks us back to Zen, their menu and their menu music, it's like kind of shattering the experience. So I hope they fix that. But of course, the most important thing is not that. It's Whitewater, the unplayable table on the Attack from Mars. There are other issues too, which myself and many others have documented. But if and when this release is updated, and hopefully it is soon, I will be sure to cover that. Hopefully Arcade1up will get this out pretty quickly. They've now done several patches for their products, so they're probably getting that process down pretty much to a science. And speaking of Arcade1up, Twin Galaxies, the community for online leaderboards and high scores in gaming, is now officially recognizing entries on several Arcade1up products, including Pac-Man, Galaga, TMNT. I think Marvel vs. Capcom was in here. I'll put a link below to this article if you want to read it. But in my opinion, this legitimizes Arcade1up as an arcade product, that this is an official way to play a game and it is recognized as a valid submission. You know, eventually these arcade machines, these originals, are going to die out. The CRTs can only last for so long, and I know there are a lot of efforts underway to keep these things preserved. However, you can't deny that Arcade1up has expanded the hobby for a lot of new people who, in some cases, might be too young to have played some of these titles originally. So I love that this is being brought into the fold and that those folks are able to participate in high score chasing as well. So that's pretty exciting. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, this kind of just, to me, it illustrates that we need a standard way for Arcade1ups to handle high scores. Now with this, I'm sure you're taking a photo of your score and submitting it or something like that. Clearly you're not submitting through the Pac-Man cabinet because it can't do that. That's impossible. But the AtGames Legends Ultimate has this one software wrapper around all of their games, so you can submit a high score. Now, I don't know if you can do the high score in every single game, but over time they've added more and more games to where you use their system menu to go around the game, scan what's on screen, find the high score readout, and submit that to their leaderboards, which is pretty cool. And Arcade1up should be doing that too, but one of the issues with 1UP, they don't have one software. They really don't. Every game is different. The emulation is handled differently by a different software company. Even their menu system is handled differently. You notice on some Arcade1ups, when you turn up the audio, there's like a feedback sound with each additional notch of audio increase or decrease, and in others doesn't have that. Some of them have 3-stage audio, some of them have 15-stage audio. So there are all these little tiny differences, and I question if they would be able to do a standardized high score system. That's separate from this Twin Galaxies thing, by the way. This is going to let you submit these inputs offline. I'm just saying, when I read this, my first thought is, man, we really need an official, legit high score system for Arcade1up. And those dry erase boards, those ain't it. So hopefully we get that soon. But in the meantime, this is a nice victory for Arcade1up and for the home arcade enthusiasts. Finally, House of the Dead news. So for a while now, House of the Dead is being remade for the Nintendo Switch. And I know not all of you have a Nintendo Switch or care about console gaming, but I'm bringing this to you for a specific reason. All right, number one, the fact that the title is being remade is really good sign of re-releases. When games are remade, that means the licensing is cleared and everything is good. And we've seen a pattern before where games get remade, but they also re-release the originals to drum up hype. That could easily be the case here. We know that this title is not lost in licensing hell, not that we would have expected it to, but that this is good to go for re-release. Good news for those of us who want to see this on Arcade1up, but here's some bad news. This title for Nintendo Switch will have no option to play the original House of the Dead. The sources have been lost, and it is quote-unquote impossible to rip assets. I don't know why impossible is in quotes. I don't know if it's because it's not legal. I would think it would be illegal. The publisher has given them the approval to re-engineer the game. Surely they could rip some simple assets. But somehow for these guys, they're not able to do that. So if they're not able to do that, I'm just going to go out on a limb and guess Arcade1up wouldn't be able to either. And then Arcade1up would have to remake the game, which might be more investment than they want to do, because this game isn't going to work. This is for Nintendo Switch. There's no way they're porting that to the Arcade1up chipset. So I don't know what's next for House of the Dead on Arcade1up, or if they have some other way to get the original assets that is not somehow available to the House of the Dead remake team, or if they would just rebuild it. I mean, I guess, you know, Big Buck Hunter was rebuilt specifically for their chipset, so it's not totally crazy. Well, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, hit the like button, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Hey, consider hitting that join button to support the channel, and thanks so much for watching.